morning. We have one of those kitchen sink that's got a tap that's got a lever on it. You push it to the right and it's cold, to the left it's hot, pull it forward, it's on, push it back and it's off. The other day I had a bowl and I wanted to just rinse it out with some warm water. So I was holding the bowl over the faucet and I just flicked the switch, the lever, and just to the left and pulled it forward and flicked it forward. Nothing happened. And I fiddled with it, nothing happened. But that's strange. It wasn't that long ago that we'd done some washing up here and it was all okay when I was wrong. And I looked up from the bowl and I noticed that a pot had been placed in the sink and it was keeping the lever from coming forward when it was switched in the direction of the hot. In other words, the tap was closed and it couldn't be opened. And with all of the water, Sydney Water, all of the dam systems behind it, nothing could get through while that tap was locked off and blocked off and shut. It's a bit like, when you're hosing the garden and you grab the hose and it's twisted on itself or twisted around something and you pull it and it knots or bends or kinks. And you can turn it on as hard as you like, but nothing will come out. All that water there, but nothing can come out because it's blocked off. I thought of this because for me it's a metaphor of our lives, of our being, that there are things in our lives that block us off from the deep wisdom, the deep love, that which can bring growth and hope and life to us. There are things like fear, prejudice, arrogance, tightly held belief systems, fear of changing or that we might be wrong or making a mistake or simply the belief that that person or that thing through which we're gaining this information couldn't possibly be a source of wisdom or truth or life. There are so many ways in thinking about this that I prevent myself from receiving of that deep wellspring of life, of grace, of love. Not in allowing myself to hear or perceive or embrace that deeper truth and wisdom that comes to me. From the world, from other people, from other places, ultimately from God. There are so many ways in which I'm like that tap that's blocked off. And there's this pool of wisdom, this deep, rich life that won't get through to me because the tap of my life is switched off, blocked, or the hose is kinked. I thought of this particularly this week when reading Mark's story of Jesus. In chapter 6 at the beginning, he has this story of a homecoming. Jesus goes home. He's been travelling the highways and byways, or probably the tracks and paths and maybe roads around the Sea of Galilee, branching out from Capernaum where he's been based. And he's been sharing and proclaiming in his words and his actions and his life this deep and profound way of God, the reign of God. This deep wellspring of truth and wisdom and life and love and healing and liberation for the people. And he's been received by the masses. The religious leaders have shunned him and demonised him, but people have received in faith. And wonderful things have happened. And he goes home. And he goes home not just as a kid returning home or a young man returning home to his hometown. He goes as a rabbi because he takes his disciples with him. He turns up in his hometown as this rabbi. And he goes to the synagogue, the religious space, on the Sabbath, and he teaches and preaches. And at first people go, wow, This wisdom, where does that come from? Wow. And then there's a voice in the crowd who says, hang on, isn't this Mary's kid? Mary's boy? Isn't he the carpenter? Aren't his brothers and sisters here with us? Who does he think he is? Who is this? You know, sometimes a homecoming for a person can be rich and joyful, and the town embraces them. So Donald Bradman, you know, he's got monuments in at least two places where he was born and grew up, and they both want to own him. Sometimes a homecoming for a person is greeted with wonder and excitement. Hometown boy or girl made good. Sometimes it's, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? And it's ignored. For Jesus, it was the latter. When that person says, isn't this the son of Mary? That's a really condescending, judgmental statement, because normally people were known through their father's lineage, the son of their father. When you're referring to the mother, it's a reference to uncertain lineage, parentage. Your background is not that sure and certain. Carpenter, tectone in their culture, wasn't a very high, honourable trade. I mean, it wasn't dishonourable, but it was low in the pecking order. It wasn't a great thing. It wasn't a profound thing. This lowly kid of suspect parentage dares to come back here and teach us. Dares to come back here with some kind of wisdom and teach us. How dare he? How dare he? Who does he think he is? And Jesus realises that there is no faith, that the taps of their life are switched off. There's this deep wellspring of life and love and wisdom and truth from God that others have received, but this townsfolk won't listen and hear, won't receive. They're like hoses that are kinked and twisted and knotted. No matter how much water in Warragamba Dam there is, nothing is going to get through. And I suppose that's what I recognise in myself and many others, that there is this wisdom that comes to us, but we're not always open to receiving it. Sometimes because the source of that wisdom and knowledge and insight is someone we don't expect it to come from. It comes from a place that we don't think is that brilliant or significant. Anyway, Jesus moves on. He leaves his hometown and goes on into other villages. Not only that, he says to his disciples, we're going to move, and I want you to go out and share this message. In the same way you've seen me doing it, I want you to go and share this message in the world. But I want you to go, and I don't want you to take anything with you. Just go as you are. Don't take extra supplies. Don't pack your bags. You know, we went for a trip out Western New South Wales a couple of months ago. We packed the car for all contingencies, in case this, in case that. Didn't use a lot of the stuff, but it was there if we needed it. Jesus says, just go. Don't go with your prepared message. Don't go with your belief systems. Don't go with extra monies and food and all the rest of it. Just go and trust in the hospitality of those you meet. You take this message of life and love and offer it to them, and they'll offer you their love and hospitality in return. Go and bring healing and liberation of God to the people. Share this message, that what you've received, let it flow through you. Don't try and hold it, don't try and contain it, define it, name it, restructure it. Just let it in and out through you. receive and let it flow through you. A channel of God's love and grace. This wellspring of life bubbling up. Let it out and flow into the world. And they go. And some people receive them. And there is this flow of life. And some people don't receive them. And nothing happens. And Jesus has said to them, where you receive, stay and offer. Where you're rejected, just leave the town and wipe the dust off your shoes and go on to the next one. Don't beat your head against the brick wall. It's for me this story, this really deeply challenging story, that there is this wellspring of life and love and hope and joy and wonder that comes from God. And that if I am open to it, it will flow into me. But it can't stay in me, because then it stagnates. It loses its power and wonder. It needs to flow through. We receive and let flow, let give. We receive and give and share and let it out. And the more we share it, the more there is. You know, if water's stuck in a hose, it doesn't move. No more comes in unless stuff goes out. The more that goes out, the more comes in. And it's the same with this love and grace of God. And it's a challenge to me that maybe I can hear and receive God's wisdom and love, sometimes in the least likely and expected places. In the child who speaks a deep wisdom. In Greta Thunberg, you know. This young woman, young girl, teenager, who comes out with deeply profound concern about the world in which she is growing up. And she sees it very clearly from her worldview, her perspective, her life. And she names it so profoundly. And yet, too many adults, we think we know. We think we have all the wisdom. Who is this young upstart? Why would we listen to her? And sometimes it comes through one of those really out there rock and roll singers whose life is a mess of drugs and alcohol and abuse, but in their most creative moments can speak into the world that is difficult and painful for them often. They have wisdom, and it comes through in their songs. Sometimes it's the homeless person who asks a deep question of us. Sometimes it's in the poor and outcast and uneducated who question the values of our society and question what we just take and believe and don't question. Sometimes it's in the dog who licks your face or wants to go for a walk and experience the wonder of the world around. Sometimes it's in the creek that flows through, or the tree that stands majestically on the side bank of the banks. Sometimes it's in the sky and the clouds, and sometimes it's in the wonder of rain and sun and moon and stars. Sometimes it's sitting and sharing a simple meal and telling stories of life. Sometimes it's in the children's book with a simple story of wonder and love and hope. God can speak to us through many ways and many people in many places. And if we will be humble enough to put our arrogance, our ego, our prejudices, our fears and everything else aside and open the tap of our lives to allow this flow of love and hope and wisdom and truth in, and allow it to flow through us, not only will we receive, but others will also receive through us. It's not about what we can do or who we are, so much as who God is and how God chooses to use us in the most profound ways. That's a challenge for me this week, to be humble, to listen, and to be open to the word and truth and wonder and wisdom of God, wherever it comes. How about you? Amen.
Mm-hmm.